excited to be here. I love Tuesdays. I love our live show. So let me know you're here. Drop a comment in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me. I always like to hear that. Today's an especially special day because we are actually streaming into 3 different groups. So welcome to the Veg Inspired Live Show. What you can expect is each Tuesday at noon Eastern, I go live in the Veg Inspired Foodies Facebook group. So if you are catching this on YouTube or on the Veg Inspired's Facebook business page and you want to make sure you don't miss any of the upcoming sessions or any of that action, you can actually visit the link veginspired.com/foodies and join the private Veg Inspired Foodies Facebook group. I make first time announcements in that group. Each week I'm on here talking live about all things plant-based. And remember, I take your comments, questions, topics that you want me to talk about into consideration as I plan each of these sessions throughout the year. So whether you're an herbivore, an omnivore, or a carnivore looking to eat more plants, there will always be a takeaway to help you do just that. So drop a hey in the chat. Let me know who's here. Give this video a thumbs up or a heart, and let's get it bumped up into the Facebook feed. And let me know where you're tuning in from. Where are you watching from? I am going live with you right now from Tucson, Arizona. We will actually be here for just a few more weeks, and then we start the trek up to Glacier National Park. As always, if you do miss this and you are in the Veg Inspired Facebook Foodies group, you can catch all of these sessions and any of the replays you've missed in the guides section in that group. It's guide number 2. And when I'm finished going live, I go ahead and put the video in there so that you have access to it right away. So as a reminder, I'm a real person. I travel full-time in a 5th wheel RV with my husband, John, and our 3 cats. So don't be surprised if you hear a little bit of off-camera noise or if one of the cats pops up to say hello. And it's like on cue. He came right over to say hi. This is Eddie. Say hi, baby. And I'll talk for about 15 to 20 minutes. And I'm really excited about this topic because I think it's so important as you're getting into the, eating more plants. So welcome. If you're just tuning in, I am Kathy Davis, a plant-based lifestyle coach, author of the 30-minute whole food plant-based cookbook, and the CEO of Veg Inspired. I help people every day transition to a plant-based diet that supports their fast-paced lifestyle without requiring hours in the kitchen or the stress of wondering, what am I going to eat? I've been eating and creating vegan meals for over 7 years, and I tweaked my own habits to follow a whole food, plant-based way of eating 1.5 years ago to increase my energy, level up my health, and shed some extra weight. So today's focus is going to be on 5 tips to help you plan for and prep 30-minute meals. Now, the first thing that I want you to do, and hey, Juanita, I see you from Indiana. Thank you. Y'all drop a hey in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. First thing I want you to do is repeat after me. I will make time for my health, and I will make time to make healthy and plant-based meals for my family. I will make time for my health, and I will make time to make healthy and plant-based meals for myself and my family. I want you to push past the time obstacle. I want you to embrace creating a mindset that sets you up for success. I'm your cheerleader. I want you to succeed. I want you to really, really embrace that it does take time to eat healthy, but it doesn't have to take hours in the kitchen and tons of prep work. We can get this planned and executed in under 30 minutes. But if after this session you still feel a little stuck, I do invite you to book a call. Let's chat through it and really help you navigate those next steps. So how do you plan for and prep 30-minute meals? In this session, I'm going to share 5 tips for doing just that, planning for and implementing 30-minute meals. This is not a meal planning session. But if you are interested in meal planning, and I can send you more information about the meal planning masterclass that I'm teaching later this week. So shoot me a message on Facebook or send me an email or comment below and I'll get in touch with you. So when you're adopting this healthy way of eating, this plant-based way of eating, you really have to pick one focus and you really have to decide who you're going to listen to. The amount of overwhelm in this health and healthy food space is enough to send anyone into a tailspin. So this session is all about really getting down to those 30-minute meals. Now, when I'm cooking and when I'm working on my meal plan and, getting these foods into my life and these meals onto my plates, I do stick to a budget. But sometimes I may have to spend a little bit more money to save time. You may have to spend a little bit more money to save time. And I'm telling you this because there are ways to make super budget-friendly meals, but in order to make them in a certain time frame, we may have to pay for those convenience foods. Remember, the more hands that have touched or the more machinery that has touched your food, the more likely it's going to cost money. So to offset time, you may have to buy things that are already conveniently packaged. So tip number one is to determine how much time you have to prep and cook your meals each day. How much time do you have to prep and cook your meals each day? Now, if you were eating the standard American diet and you came home from work every day and you spent 30 minutes tossing some burger in the frying pan, putting some spaghetti sauce on it and boiling up your sauce, you probably spent about 20 to 30 minutes prepping that meal. Maybe you had a salad, maybe you threw garlic bread in the oven. So what I want you to consider is how much time do you actually have? Not, oh my gosh, plant-based eating is so time consuming because I have to prep all these ingredients. That's not what we're doing. Remember, we're moving past that mindset that this is time consuming. So step number one, how much time do you actually have to prep and cook your meals each day? Now, hear my heart. You do not have to be a batch cooker or a batch prepper to be successful in plant-based eating. That is one strategy to set yourself up for success. But if you're like me and you want to get into the kitchen, bang out a 30-minute meal on a Tuesday night, and spend your Sundays exploring the desert of Tucson or wherever you live, the local park, do not feel like you need to spend 17 hours in the kitchen on Sunday to be successful. I do not meal prep. I make 30-minute meals. Okay, so you are more than welcome to embrace meal prepping. That is awesome, and it is definitely a strategy that works for a lot of people. But I do not want to hear you say, I can't meal prep, therefore I can't eat plant-based, because that's not accurate. So tip number one was to determine how much time you have to prep and cook your meals each day. If you choose to meal prep or ingredient prep, then decide how much time you have to do that those couple of days a week. Number two, familiarize yourself with your ingredients for the week or select ingredients that you're familiar with. Now, if you have a busy week or a busy night of the week, it's always busy. Wednesdays is always the day that you have extracurricular activities for the kids, or you work late every Wednesday, or, your partner has a special event that they do on Wednesdays, and so you're just cooking for one, or it's just that hump day that you're exhausted and you don't plan new recipes and new ingredients. Make sure that you're using familiar ingredients. It is not the day or the week, those busy weeks, to plan in challenging, time-consuming, or new recipes and ingredients. An example I love to use is leek soup. So I love potato leek soup. I love the flavors of it. But the first time I had to clean and prep leeks, I was like, this takes forever. That may not be the best choice for that busy night. It might be easier to dump a can of some canned tomatoes, a bunch of spices and flavors into the Vitamix or into the blender, or use your immersion blender and heat them up, and you have soup ready in under 30 minutes, right? Pick the ingredients you are familiar with. Set yourself up for success. Don't make it difficult. Oh, look at you guys. All the chats finally came in. I just got a bunch of them and a bunch of thumbs up. Can you hear me? Let's see. Kathy's here from Spokane. Jacqueline tuning in. Facebook user. And Ria. Oh, Joe's. Okay, and Joe's here talking to. Awesome. You guys. Oh my gosh, look at all of you. I don't know what happened, but it was a super delay. I've got Joe and Amy and Sandra and Lisa. We have a Facebook user in I'm never going to be able to say that. Nanimo? I'm struggling with that one. Must be Ria because Joe's. Yes, you guys. So this is what happens when when you don't click the StreamYard link. It just shows me Facebook user. I know some of you are interested in the meal planning, so I will send that to you. I've got it loud and clear. I've got Sue. I've got Joe. You guys, you're the best. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I haven't been up in here talking to you. I didn't even get the chats until just now. Okay, so we had number 1 was determine how much time you have to prep and cook. And number 2, familiarize yourself with your ingredients or choose ingredients that you are familiar with. Busy weeks, busy days are not the time to try out new recipes and go crazy in the kitchen. Number 3, now this is the one that always gets a little controversial because 1, it can be a little bit more expensive, and 2, may not be the most environmentally friendly option. However, it is what's going to save time. Opt for convenience and store-bought whole foods, okay? These are your prepped veggies, right? We know that it takes longer to prep the broccoli, so maybe you get broccoli that's already prepped at your grocery store. You know, it doesn't take me long to peel a couple of garlic cloves, but I'm not very good at mincing it. So maybe I get prepared minced garlic or prepared minced ginger. Maybe you pick up those containers of chopped onions, or you buy pre-made pico de gallo rather than chopping it all yourself. There are a lot of options in that fresh food section of your grocery store. Pre-made guacamole, pre-made pico de gallo, fresh salsas, you know, already shredded cabbage, carrots that are already shredded. I mean, you've got so many options of pre-packaged foods. Now, again, they are a little bit more expensive, right? Because a machine or a human has had to touch them multiple times. However, they are going to speed up your kitchen cooking. Maybe this is where you buy some frozen veggies and shift the recipe a little bit, right? So that you're using already prepped ingredients that are at their peak time, right? Frozen ingredients are at their peak processing. They're frozen when they're in their heightened of their freshness season. And you use those and you modify the recipe a little bit. Maybe you don't cook them until they're mush. Maybe you just give them a quick blanch to get them unfrozen and get them, you know, heated through and cooked up. This is where you're going to lean into those low sodium veggie broths, right? In order to eat plant-based, you don't have to make every single item from scratch. Low sodium veggie broth, low sodium beans, right? You can use cooking sauces. So there's an awesome brand of cooking sauces, and disclaimer, I am an ambassador for them, but I can put a link if you're interested. They have 5 different flavors. They have a Latin, a Caribbean, a Creole, let's see, the African, and the Mediterranean. There's 5 different sauces. They're Mesa de Vida, and I do have a link that I can put in, but I love them because you can mix them into your beans. You just heat them through. You can toss your veggies in them. You know, this might be where you use frozen bagged or quick cooking whole grains or quick cooking rices, right? Now, what I'm not suggesting is to buy dairy-laden, oily ingredients. I'm suggesting whole unprocessed, right, or minimally processed ingredients that speed up your prep, right? You can get rice that cooks in 15 minutes. Nobody says you have to eat rice that's cooked for an hour, brown rice that's cooked for an hour. You might get that quick cooking grain, right? Look for oil-free condiments and sauces, barbecue sauces, pasta sauces, salad dressings that don't have oil, hummus that doesn't have oil, you know, oil-free dips and spreads. Another ambassador product that I use is nacho no cheese. I can put the links for all of these. I have a partner link on my website. It gives you the direct link and any coupon codes that I have. These are products that I use every day in my kitchen to make my life easier. Okay, oil-free dips, oil-free spreads like nut cheeses and hummuses, right? Vinegars, lemon and lime juice. I buy bottled lemon and lime juice because it's convenient. I don't have to get the little lime juice squeezer out. I don't have to wash that. It's about convenience. It's about what's easier for you. Don't overthink it. I don't want you to use the excuse that you don't have time to eat plant-based because you're making dinner anyway, whether it's plant-based or not. So identify how much time you have, and then let's work together to figure out what recipes you can fit into that time. Question number 4. Tip number 4 is asking yourself questions. The only way you're going to be able to make these changes is to try them out. And I know it's scary at first. For a lot of people, this is the first time that you're really getting into preparing things like leeks. Or maybe you never knew that you could shave off that hard edge of the broccoli stalk and actually chop it up and use it. Maybe you've always eaten frozen broccoli or canned vegetables, right? I mean, these are the first times that you're really navigating these types of veggies, and it can be scary and it can be uncomfortable, but you will find more opportunities to change up your recipes, try different ingredients, and really find yourself changing out even your old omnivore recipes to plant-based recipes. So some questions I want you to think about when you are navigating this space is, how can I simplify a recipe? So most of you know that I authored the 30-minute whole food plant-based cookbook, and I want to actually bring out an example. So one of my favorite recipes for breakfast, for a savory breakfast, is tofu scramble, right? Now, normally for my tofu scramble, I chop onions, peppers, mushrooms, right? I get all these high flavor ingredients and I saute them up. But guess what? That all takes time. And so for the 30-minute cookbook, I said, how can I simplify my tofu scramble so that people can have it ready in under 30 minutes, have it taste fantastic, and not be this overwhelming recipe, right? So page 26. Sorry, I'm not good at getting things on the camera. Tofu scrambles on this side, right? So what does it have in it? I used onion powder. Can you sub in onion powder, garlic powder, dried herbs? Now in this example, you're not going to sub in quick cooking grains, but in another example, what could you substitute? How can you simplify a recipe that you have in front of you, right? Now, you might find a recipe in here that uses rice, right? The broccoli stir fry. You could cook your rice that day. If you're using brown rice, that can take a while. Could you use already cooked rice? Could you batch cook rice on, could you make rice one day and then use that for the broccoli stir fry the next? How can you simplify recipes to make them ready in under 30 minutes? So that's one thing that I always like to remind you is, can you substitute spices, onion powder, garlic powder specifically, in lieu of chopping onions, chopping garlics? Now, I know that that's not the same texture, right? I know that when you put an onion in a recipe, it sometimes has a different flavor, has a different texture. But we're talking about speed here. And we're also talking about picking the way you're navigating this space. On a Saturday, when you've got 4 hours to cook, you might be in there chopping up your onions and garlic, right? But on a Tuesday, when you need it fast in under 15 minutes, you're throwing in onion powder. So here's the tip. 1 tablespoon of onion powder is about the equivalent of half a cup to 3/4 of a cup of onion. Now, onion powder is a little sweeter. So if you want to sweeten something up, you can add a little more. If you don't like onion, maybe use a little less. And then about 1/8 of a teaspoon of garlic powder is about 1 normal sized clove of garlic, which is about, I think, half of it, about a teaspoon of minced garlic. Now, what about swapping in recipes? Okay, so in the 30-minute whole food plant-based cookbook, I have a soy curl noodle soup right? It's modeled after chicken noodles. Soy curls are amazing. They give it this amazing flavor. But you hop into the pantry and you're like, crap, I don't have any soy curls. What do I have? Do you have beans? Can you throw some beans in there? Could you thinly slice some tempeh? Could you rinse your jackfruit really, really well? If you don't know how to prep jackfruit, hit me up and I'll put the link in the description of the video so that you can get the way that I use my jackfruit, right? Can you just leave it out and add more noodles? How can you change things up in a recipe? And I'm giving you real life examples right out of my cookbook, but this could be any recipe. You know, maybe you have a recipe for barley soup and you don't have any barley. Can you reduce the cooking time and use quinoa? Maybe you've got the veg-inspired taco filling and you realize you never bought bulgur, or you're gluten-free. Can you use quinoa because it's not a, it doesn't have gluten. That's always my recommendation on gluten-free grain. Can you use quinoa in place of the bulgur? What can you swap in and out of recipes to make them more familiar to you and cook faster? Something like, barley takes a long time to cook. If you read the back of the package, it's not a quick cooking grain unless you get quick cooking barley, right? So how can you speed that up? So this is still under the questions. And one of the questions that I ask are, what are some really simple recipes or really simple meals that don't have a recipe? And we actually just had this, we're having this thread come through this week. It's what are my favorite meals that don't have recipes? So here's a few that I love. Brown rice, pinto or black beans, salsa or pico de gallo, guacamole, right? Simple. You have your rice cooked, or you cook your rice, or your rice is already cooked. You can use a quick cooking rice that goes in the microwave. Open up a can of beans, drizzle on some salsa, mash up an avocado, little lime juice. Make it simple. Potatoes and broccoli. So you can boil them, you can steam your potatoes, you can bake your potatoes, you can cook up frozen broccoli, and you can make a queso. Now there's a queso in the 30-minute whole food plant-based cookbook, or there's quesos online. Now I use pre-cooked squash, so I'll cook an entire butternut squash, portion it into 1 cup servings, freeze it. We come home busy. We're like, oh, hey, you know what would be really good? We've got potatoes, we've got frozen broccoli. Let's grab that 1 cup of squash out of the freezer and mix up a quick queso. Now for our recipe, we use salsa because we always have salsa on hand. So there's some other ingredients in it, but basically the base is butternut squash and salsa to make this queso cheesy sauce for potatoes and broccoli. Another really good recipe is a whole grain. Now farro takes about 30 minutes, I think, to cook. So pasta's faster. So maybe you do a quick, pasta or brown rice noodles with red sauce, some spinach, and maybe you throw in some beans. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's just pasta, red sauce, a little bit of some spinach, right? When I do my red sauce, if I'm making an entire batch, I'll actually throw 5 ounces, which is one of those small clamshells of fresh spinach, right into my red sauce, right into my pasta sauce. And I just let it wilt down. If you want to add a punch of protein, you can throw in some drained and rinsed white beans, drained and rinsed kidney beans, whatever beans your family likes. And then maybe a sprinkle of nutritional yeast. Okay? Keep it simple. I didn't even recommend, an easy stir fry because it's so easy for me, right? You cook your rice, you saute, you warm up some frozen veggies, add a little bit of maybe ginger powder, a little garlic powder, some soy sauce or liquid aminos, mix in your rice, and you've either got a fried rice or you've got, heated up rice with the stir-fried veggies on top. An easy tofu scramble and toast is a great breakfast. Pasta with the Dr. McDougall cashew butter sauce. And if you don't know what that is, it is life-changing. It is literally one of our go-to recipes from way back 7 years ago to replace butter. It's cashews, veggie broth, and water buzzed in the Vitamix. You can mix it with sauteed veggies. You can mix it with roasted veggies. You can mix it with frozen veggies that you warm up, mix it in with pasta, serve it over rice. We make haluski with it, which is pasta and cabbage. I mean, really, there's so many ideas that you can make in under 30 minutes that we don't even think about because we're so used to looking at like, how are we going to make this happen? And instead of saying, how can we make this happen in under 30 minutes, right? Now, roasted veggies, they're going to take a little bit longer than 30 minutes. Now, tip number 5 is your big takeaway. So I know there's some questions in the chat. I'm going to walk you through this tip number 5. This is what you need your paper and pen for. So I hope you have that. But this is your big takeaway. And this is where you're going to really have that light bulb moment. Okay. So across the top of your paper, I want you to write starch. You're going to make columns and write stuff underneath it. So I want you to make, it's like a matrix. It's going to be your, like, this is your go-to thing that you're going to use, your go-to resource. So across the top of your paper, you're going to write starch. You're going to write protein bean, right? So carbs, beans. Then you're going to write, I like to separate out greens and vegetables, but you can do greens and vegetables in one, or you can just do, you know, fresh produce or cooked veggies or something like that. And then column number 4 or 5, depending on how you're putting it up, is sauces and flavorings. So under your starches, you're going to put your family's favorite starches, your family's favorite high carb, low fat, go to, right? I eat high carb, low fat, whole food, plant-based. So half of my plate is always some type of whole starch ingredient. White potatoes, red potatoes, you know, yellow potatoes, Yukon Golds, whatever. So those all-purpose type potatoes. Maybe it's whole grain pasta, gluten-free pasta, something like that. Rice noodles would be fine. So you've got potatoes, you've got some type of pasta. Rices, maybe you use white rice, maybe you use brown rice, maybe you use black rice, forbidden rice, maybe you use wild rice, right? Like, just you've got how it's going. So under your carb section, you're brainstorming your family's favorite high starch ingredients. Now, if you're not high starch and you just eat a serving of that, or a, you know, less of a serving than I do, that's fine. But that's how I eat. So that's a big part of my meal. You might have your whole grains like farro, amaranth, oats, millet, sorghum, bulgur, right? And if I'm saying things that you don't know, that's okay. I didn't know them 7 years either, right? We actually went through a phase where we bought all of the grains that Bob's Red Mill makes, and we tried each grain, right? So you go, you know, you're in the grocery store and you're like, you know what? Kathy kept talking about this farro stuff. Like, maybe I'll try it. Maybe I'll try it in place of pasta. That's how we usually use it. Now, again, it's not a speedy cooked grain. So, you know, you're going to have to plan ahead. It might not be ready in 30 minutes. Like, pasta is fast. It's ready fast. Sweet potato would go in that category. Okay. And then under your beans or your protein, black beans, lentils, pinto beans, tofu and tempeh would fall into that protein bean serving, right? If you follow Dr. Greger, that's where you're really going to get that daily dozen piece. That's where you're going to get your servings of beans. Hummus falls in there because it's made with chickpeas. Nuts. Now you could put quinoa in the grain section, the starchy section, or you can put quinoa in the protein section, right? Because it's in both. Under greens, kale, spinach, mixed greens, beet greens, romaine lettuce, right? This is where you're going to put those leafy, lettucey ingredients that you're going to cook. Chard. And then under your veggies, you're going to put broccoli, carrots, tomatoes, you know, cauliflower. Now, this could be roasted. This could be raw. This could be steamed. It could be, you know, frozen that you cook, just cooked, right? Boiled. And then in your sauces, you're going to put things like tahini sauce, pasta sauce, peanut sauce, barbecue sauce, salsa. You know, maybe you put Like, and maybe under flavorings, you do more of the like the theme, like maybe it's Tex-Mex or Asian inspired flavors or Italian inspired flavors or Mediterranean inspired flavors where you've got like the Greek dressings with hummus or lemony dill dressings, right? Maybe you have mustard sauce that you really like or the queso. So you've got everything in their columns this way. And then the next task is going to be to mix and match, right? I love sweet potatoes with like a mapley mustard sauce. In fact, I just was going through some old pictures and I found, I'm going to show you because I love it. If you have the China Study Cookbook, there is a recipe called sweet potato 270 something, I think. Hang with me, friends. Sweet potatoes and kale. Look at that. So it's sweet potatoes and kale with the leafy green dill sauce. And the leafy green dill sauce is lemon juice, soy sauce, Dijon mustard, dried dill, and then she thickens it with a little cornstarch. So you could use a little chickpea flour to thicken it, right? Oh my gosh, it was so good. I remember loving that recipe, and I'm going through old pictures and I'm like, oh, I have to post this. It was so good. So that'll be posting, that picture will be coming up soon. But so mix and match, right? Like sweet potatoes, maybe in that we throw, we eat it over quinoa for a little protein, or we throw some baked tofu in there, or we add some chickpeas to it. Maybe you love roasted cauliflower. So you're like, you know what? I'll do a little less kale and some roasted cauliflower. How can you mix and match things to make them really make those recipes really under 30 minutes and really match your flavors, right? Maybe you do pasta with, I've done things like pasta, baked tofu, garlicky sauteed spinach with spaghetti sauce, or pasta, seasoned tempeh seasoned, kind of like poultry seasoning, with pasta sauce and nutritional yeast, right? So I know there's questions in the chat, so I'm coming back to you. If you've got more questions, keep them going. I'm going to keep talking. So you've got this matrix. Now I want you to mix and match different combinations, right? And I told you that I really want you to be thinking about recipe-free meals. Sweet potatoes with roasted cauliflower, broccoli, and barbecue sauce. You don't need a recipe for that. Roast your sweet potatoes and cauliflower and broccoli on a sheet pan till they're done, right? 400 degrees till they're done, and drizzle them with barbecue sauce, serve them over. You don't even have to serve them over rice because you've got the sweet potato and the veggies. Maybe serve them with some fresh spinach or a little bit of wilted spinach. Brown rice with wilted spinach and tomato sauce with a side of broccoli. Steamed potatoes with roasted cauliflower. And then we've been doing potatoes and cauliflower and pickled turnips and tahini sauce, and we wrap it in a whole grain pita. It's like a sandwich or a wrap. So the one thing that I learned while writing the 30-minute whole food plant-based cookbook is that prepping the ingredients is often where most of the time can be spent, and cooking fat vegetable chunks. So the smaller you cut your veggies, the faster they'll cook. Okay, so I really want you to consider these 5 tips when you are planning your meals. And again, if you are interested in that meal planning masterclass, let me know. I'll get you that information. I am teaching it this week, but it will be recorded and available. It is closed door. It will not be zoomed in. You have to register to receive the link. But it is a 90-minute intense masterclass, and you will walk away with a meal plan. Then you'll have access to be replanning as you go. So the biggest thing that I want you to really have from this is the mindset that you can make these meals happen in under 30 minutes. You don't have to be a master batch cooker or a master prepper, right? There are some things you can cook ahead of time. You can throw your rice in the rice cooker so you have a huge batch of rice to scoop from all week. You can prep your veggies. Maybe you come home from the grocery store and you prep some of them. For us, Sometimes I'll come home from the grocery store and I'll wash the lettuces and the kale and store them in the salad spinner. And other times I'm like, you know what? I want to get out and explore because we do our grocery shopping on the weekends. I want to sit outside. I'm tired of being in the camper. I want to be outside exploring. So I'm going to deal with it on the day that I'm going to eat it. And I accept that. So that means the day that I'm going to eat it, I might have 5 to 10 minutes more prep time that has to come out of something else. That day, maybe I'm not sitting outside for as long, right? But it's about taking ownership over the meals. You know, you had to cook before you went plant-based. So it's about learning these tips and strategies to make plant-based cooking that way of life. And that really is the key. And that's really why I'm so passionate about accepting that it's going to take time to cook, but learning the strategies to get it done in 30 minutes. So, you know, it's one of those, you know, like I said, you might prep certain ingredients ahead of time, right? Like kale, I always we wash our herbs before. We get the little stringy ones hanging off the bottom, off by the stems. We get those, we trim the stems, we put them in a bouquet, like as a bouquet in water, and really, you know, making sure that that's washed and ready to go. So when I do have to cut the cilantro for my Mexican inspired dishes or my Asian inspired dishes, because I use cilantro in everything, it's dry and washed and ready to go. So I'm going to walk back through and share some chats and things that you guys have talked about. Keep those questions coming. Yes, Lisa, definitely treating meals as a calendar appointment, right? Like you have to cook meals. You have to make time to do so. Joe says, I love having cooked chickpeas and black beans on hand. Definitely. Sue, which type of kale do you typically eat? Couple, but they're so coarse. I'm going to just put this up here. I've tried a couple different ones, but they are so coarse and I find it to be such a turnoff and avoid kale despite knowing it's good for me. So I typically buy the leafy kale, and most of the kale I eat, I cook. So, which means that it basically gets to the wilted point, so it's not so tough. I also strip off the rough stem. So when I'm washing my kale, I separate it from the stem and I throw the stem away. And then I'll either tear it into pieces or I'll just let it cook and I'm eating like this giant like piece of kale. I hope that helps. Like I use the leafy ones and I know that the fresher the kale, the more tender it is. But you can also, if you're going to eat it raw, I really recommend the 8-minute soak and the massaging. I mean, that is a game changer because it really breaks down the structure of the kale. See, Joe also agreed Dijon mustard is like a hidden gem. Yes. Janice, yes, you can definitely grab the replay. So I'm not picky on my salsa. I typically look for an organic one. I'll use store brand organic. I know that Whole Foods, the 365 ones are pretty good. We just bought the green one. Because I'm not salt free, or 100% salt free, I just use, minimal salt. I don't really mind if it has some salt. I'm more looking for, the other ingredients. Like I don't like ones with a lot of natural flavors. I want it to be as fresh and non-GMO as possible. We also will look at, so those are jarred salsas. And then we also look in the fresh produce section at any of their fresh salsas. So some stores, Whole Foods specifically, the fries here had a fresh salsa and it's usually more of like a chopped kind of pico de gallo style. So we like those as well. So I know that for me, I look for an organic one and I don't like spicy. So I usually pick mild, but my husband would eat it as hot as possible. So he'll, sometimes we get two and we have one hot one and one mild one or medium. Sometimes I can swing medium depending on what we're using it in. Kathy, so a soy curl is dehydrated soy. So it's a soy product. They're typically sold at a health food store or online. The only brand that I know of is Butler Foods. And so I'll buy, they don't weigh very much. So, cause they're dehydrated. So I'll buy them and, they look like shredded, I'm going to say chicken, like chunks. And you rehydrate them. So we made them the other day in tacos, and we rehydrated them with, or fajitas, I suppose, with some liquid aminos and lime juice. And they absorb that flavoring, and then you just cook them to warm them up. You can also do them in the oven. You can like simmer them in a sauce. They're versatile. They're a little bit more processed, so we don't eat them a lot, but I'd categorize those in like the tofu tempeh kind of category. Amy, I would agree. Jackfruit tacos are amazing. I love that you guys love my books. Broccoli stalks in cabbage rolls. See, the broccoli stalks, I didn't know you could eat that, but you have to cut off all that or peel off all that hard edging. And then the inside is like soft. It's nice. Yes, you have to practice. I love the practice is key. Yeah, so I'm gonna touch upon this because Amy is exactly right. Like, once you learn knife skills and have a decent knife with a decent cutting board, you can really maximize your time spent prepping. A lot of times it really is about practice. You know, what would take me a while before takes me less time now because I have like a system, right? I know what veggies I'm going to use. They're all washed. I chop, and then I can get them right into the pan while I do something else. Multitasking also comes with practice, right? So I can now have something sauteing and have something on the other burner, which is new. I used to have to be really very like, John has to do one thing, I have to do the other because I couldn't multitask. But the longer you get into practice, multitasking becomes a little bit easier, and you're not running around the kitchen like, my water's boiling over and my veggies are burning. Like, it comes with practice and time. Let's see. Plant-based breakfasts. So for Juanita, some of the things that I eat for breakfast, I mean, I've recently been kind of on a cereal kick. I'll just get a whole grain cereal that doesn't have a lot of sugar. Ezekiel makes some. There's Whole Foods has a brown rice crisps. Grape nuts, I think, are more whole food plant-based. I think Whole Foods even has like I remember getting a Cheerio style, and it was sweetened with apple juice, but I can't remember where I bought that. So kind of thinking about cereals, you could do something like oats. You could do overnight oats, so you're prepping them the night before. Chia pudding, you can do like a sweet potato and apple. There's a recipe for that. You basically simmer the sweet potatoes with apples in like a sweetened vanilla maple kind of water, and it cooks down, and then you can top it with nuts if you eat nuts, tahini sauce, things like that. Other breakfast, tofu scramble. I'll do a whole grain English muffin with a little nut butter and jam, or just jam depending on what I'm eating. Sometimes I do baked tofu and cooked tempeh bacon and make a breakfast sandwich with the English muffin or toast. Avocado toast or an avocado bagel. So there's lots of options. It's really about coming up with what fits into your time. Like when I was working outside the home and traveling to my office, I would drink a smoothie. Now that was pre-whole food plant-based for weight loss, but so as I, got into this, I started doing more oat bowls where it's not overnight oats, but it's not raw oatmeal. Like you make the oats ahead of time. You put the oats, the old-fashioned rolled oats, and the liquid in the container, container with a lid that you can seal. And I always put blueberries and a little maple syrup and some cinnamon and some ground flax. And then I let it sit on my way to work. So it'd be like 45 minutes to an hour later. And so the oats would have softened and the blueberries would have melted. They were frozen blueberries. And everything kind of turned to this nice, beautiful purple color, which always makes me happy when my food's pretty. And then I would, eat that as like cereal, but it's like slightly warm, but the frozen blueberries, I don't know, it's just a good texture. I like the soaked oats. Let's see, other questions. Spaghetti or mac and cheese is our meal when we haven't planned ahead. That's great. That's great. You guys. All right, new comments. Let's see. Oh, goodness, you do have some more questions. Okay. Okay, how do I store herbs after wash so that they dry? So I take my herbs and I put them in a mason jar with some water, and the ends go into the water, and then the leaves are up. And then I put a reusable reusable produce bag over the top of those. And then I leave them in the refrigerator, and then I can just pull off, I can just pull a handful out and chop the ends off and just chop the leaves up. Oh, kale and fresh salsa. That sounds good. Sag is a great way. Good, 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 good. Let's see. Snacks. Okay, so I did a whole training on snacks, Ruby. So if you are not in the Facebook group, I highly recommend joining. It is, let me put you can visit this link, veginspired.com/foodies, and join, and you can catch one of the replays. I did a whole training on it. It was a 30-minute training on plant-based snacks that I've been eating for the last year. But some of my favorites are hummus and veggies, apples and dates, things like that. Chloe is talking about the sag, which is the Indian cream spinach. Love, love, love it. I boil them separately in a pot on the stove. So, and we cook our beans in a slow cooker, but you can also do it on stovetop. We do a half a pound of beans in a small slow cooker. But you can, there's instant pot recipes, there's slow cooker, and then Joe, boils them separately on the stove. So any of those recipes would work. Hate using 4 burners at a time. Yes. Yes, Janice, right? Because multitasking is like overwhelming almost. So you guys, this has been really great. I love our interactive live shows. That's really why I do it, is to really provide you with information. So I hope that you were able to get these 5 tips written down and really, work on that matrix. How can you mix and match those easy ingredients, those easy things to make recipe-free meals so that you are getting these, whole food plant-based meals or plant-based meals on the table. I know that I talked for way longer than I normally do. I hope this session was really, really helpful for you and help you get into these, these easy 30-minute meals. If you are interested in the meal planning masterclass, send me a message on Facebook, comment below. If you are on YouTube, I would like you to either find me on Instagram at veginspired and send me a message, or you can email me. It's Kathy@veginspired.com, because I can't comment on the live chat until the YouTube video kind of does what it has to do to whatever it's called, buffer, or whatever it does. So I don't want that to delay you getting the information on the masterclass, because that is being taught this week. So find me on Instagram at veginspired, or join the Veginspired Facebook group, or message me on Facebook. Just get in touch with me so I can get you that information. If you are, tuning in, don't forget to tune in next Tuesday. We actually have a guest speaker, so I'll be posting all that information at the end of the week. And I love, love, love sharing this with you. I hope that it was helpful from somebody who didn't used to love to cook, and now, I feel like a pro at these 30-minute meals. I hope that I can transfer some of this information and that you can really get moving. So thank you for tuning in. Again, I appreciate your time. I know I talked for a bit, but I hope it was valuable, and I will see you all next Tuesday. Bye.